Max Wardell here from the OAI. This is a before and after, just in a drill with a variation of about 5 minutes where we cued a few different things to get this athlete to actually load into his glute and quadricep muscles on his drive leg. So in the left video, what you'll see is that he never really flexes his knee moving forward, and he kind of goes into an early rotation towards the target. In both of these throws, we're using the same position, which is a static position, to get him to utilize his hips and lower body without having to worry about positioning of his arm. So now in the right video, as this athlete goes forward, we've given him a cue behind him of a little stool that he can touch his butt to. And at this point in the throw, what you see now is a drastic difference in shin angle, in hip rotation, and in knee flexion that allows him to get in a better position for acceleration later in the throw and not elevate his elbow too late. So another thing that we talk about from time to time is the position of the front foot. And what you can't see in the video on the left is that this athlete has landed in an internally rotated position of the front foot where his toes are nowhere near open to the target, which prevents his body from rotating fully towards the target and shortens his deceleration arc, which you can see in side bending from a posterior view. So I'm going to cut this video right here and we'll show that landing position of his front foot. So what you'll see here with this athlete is that he loads by pure rotation, no actual flexion through that front leg, and his hips drift anterior right away, which I'm going to show you a little bit more in another view here in a second. So he ends up in a lot of lumbar extension, and if you look at his front foot, he lands on his toes and they're kind of pointed towards the dugout of the third base side. So now you can really see how much lumbar side bending he does through his side as a result of not only loading into his hip poorly, but landing with an internally rotated position of that front foot. So he's totally altered the sequence of which he can accelerate the ball and his efficiency towards the plate. Another quick view here of the lower extremity and load into the hips. This was actually after we worked on it for about 3 throws, and you can see he starts to flex a little bit through that knee, but really the only thing carrying him forward is gravity as he lands into that front leg. There's no actual contribution from the rear leg in driving forward, and the only thing he really does push with is the effect of hip rotation, just a tad bit, but you can see that's relatively quiet as well, because look at how his rear foot comes off the floor. So there's not really any drive from that back leg at all. And what we saw with this athlete was some weakness in his glute, his quadricep, and his hamstring muscle. So we prescribed him with the exercises you'll see here next. The hip hinge with a bar. This can be a PVC pipe that has no weight. If you're just progressing this, it can be a heavier load. This is just like an RDL exercise where I'm working on my hip hinge. Slight bend in the knees, athletic stance, nice neutral spine. I'm going to be bending over until I feel like I might lose my posture. So again, if I can only get to here, no problem. That's fine. I can start with that, maintaining my posture. Hold it for half a second and up. If I can get a little farther down, hold. That's good as well. I want to maintain a neutral posture, no looking up with the neck, no arching of the back this way, and no excessive arching that way. So it's just a nice neutral posture, down to where I feel the stretch, and then back up. Bulgarian split squats. You're going to put 1 foot on the bench, 1 foot out in front. You're going to hop it out there. From there, you're going to have 2 decently heavy dumbbells. He's going to lower himself down, most of his weight on the front leg here, and then up.
Yep, just like that. You'll perform your repetitions on one side, rest if you have to, or immediately switch to the other leg. So he's just going down into that lunge with most of the weight on the front leg.
What you'll see with a lot of athletes is they have physical limitations that cannot be overcome by just some skill training. You need to integrate the strength training or the mobility training into what you're doing with the skill to allow them to access positions of the throw or positions of the athletic movement they weren't previously able to access. But with that said, a lot of times these athletes, despite having physical limitations in terms of strength or mobility, they can get in a lot better positions than they initially present with. Right here, you can see that the athlete presents on the left with a ton of lean backwards, a huge quad moment, and his pelvis shifts anterior. So it leads to him short striding across his body, landing with that internally rotated position of the foot, and then a ton of side bending at the end of the throw. Now when you look at the video on the right, you can see that as he progresses forward, where on the left he went into hip extension early, he maintains hip flexion for longer and accesses more of his knee flexion with his butt back to load his glute muscle. And he actually releases the ball maybe a couple inches closer to the plate as well because he doesn't have as much lumbar side bending, which you can see evident by the elevation of the elbow as he goes through the acceleration phase being higher on the left. So don't do as many posts on lower extremity biomechanics with athletes. I want to do more with this particular athlete after he gets a bit stronger. I think this is about where we could get to in a 30-minute session without actually improving any strength and just working on the sequencing of the throw. So pretty good improvements in his lower body transition down the mound, but we'll be looking for more as this particular athlete gets stronger, as he's never really done any sort of strength and conditioning or strength training protocol ever. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your comments in the section below. I'm happy to address everything I can. I wish I had a couple more video angles. I think it would have been a little bit better for you guys to see from the posterior view. So I will talk to you guys in our next video. Thanks for stopping by. Love to hear your thoughts.